Welcome back, everyone. As usual, we are two dudes talking 80s. I'm John. That's my partner in crime, Lewis.
Hello.
And we were thinking we talked about Metallica's Kill 'Em All, and we talked about Metallica's Ride the Lightning, and we thought we'd do Master of Puppets today. But then we thought about it. It's like, you know what? Let's do something a little bit different. We're actually going to compare Metallica's Ride the Lightning, as Lewis is wearing the shirt, and Master of Puppets. So we thought we'd compare those two. It's the 8 songs of Metallica and their peak of their career in my book. And I thought it'd be a little bit more fun, especially due to the similarities between the two albums. Lou, when did you first start getting into Metallica?
I unfortunately got into Metallica a little bit later on. I got started listening to them when they came out with Master of Puppets. And it was after I sort of became familiar with Master of Puppets that I really discovered Ride the Lightning.
All right, well, cool. I was there, not from the beginning. I wish I could say I was there from the demo days. I do remember hearing like a fifth, sixth generation demo, which wasn't the best. And I was a first day Kill 'Em All buyer and didn't exactly do it for me originally, but grew to love it. And then, I was with them for that definitely throughout the 80s. But,
Yeah,
a little quick, huh?
I was just going to say it sort of kills me because I had friends of mine that saw them at really small clubs, like I think it was Ruthie's, and I just missed out on all that. I wish I had been part of that.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to see them at a few smaller places, so I'm happy with that.
Nice.
So just for a point of reference, Ride the Lightning came out in July of 1984. Any idea how well it's done since its release?
I'm sure it's got at least platinum, if not double platinum.
Try 6 times platinum.
Wow.
And then Master of Puppets came out in March of 1986, as you and I were getting ready to graduate high school. Any idea how many that sold?
Oh man, that's probably done better than Ride the Lightning, if I were to guess. So maybe 7 times platinum?
Good call. I think it's really close to 8, to be honest.
Wow.
I don't know what when the numbers were updated, but when I was looking at them, it's pretty close. Should be 8. You said you didn't get into them till later. I'm guessing you didn't see either of those tours.
I did not. The first tour that I saw them on was the Injustice for All tour.
Okay. Yeah, I saw them on the Ride the Lightning tour 2 nights in a row. I don't know. I wish I could go back and remember why. We didn't see them on the Master of Puppets tour, or I didn't see them. They were opening for Ozzy on the Master of Puppets tour. I think part of it was we had just, me and my buddy, we had seen Ozzy a few times. We had seen him with Brad. I think we saw him twice with Jakey Lee, and it's like, do we really want to go again? And Metallica was going to play an abbreviated set as the openers. We kept thinking, okay, well, they'll come back and they'll play a long set in the Bay Area. Unfortunately, due to the death of the late great Cliff Burton, it never really happened. But we did drive. I remember we drove to Sacramento, and why we went to Sacramento as opposed to the Bay Area, I don't remember. But to see that show, the day of, we didn't have tickets. We were just like, oh, we'll just buy tickets there. When we got there, and it was sold out. So
Oh man. That's a bit of
yeah,
a stretch to drive too, and to sort of get there and go, oh yeah, well, you're not gonna see them. Sorry.
and back then you had scalpers that you couldn't really trust. It wasn't like today where you go on the internet and just buy a ticket, overpay, whatever. You couldn't do that back then. You might buy a ticket, it was no good. It didn't work. So it was very fearful of doing that. And I remember, I don't know why, but I remember Hyrax was playing in San Francisco. I was
All
like,
right.
this is youthful exuberance, right? Let's drive back from Sacramento, go to San Francisco, and go see Hyrax. And I think my buddy goes, yeah, no, we're not doing that. So we didn't go. But anyway, I did try. I did try to see him on the Master of Puppets tour. So I did miss that tour. And then saw him again, similarly to you, on the Injustice for All. So let's start off with the first thing we're going to talk about. Let's get into this comparison of Ride the Lightning versus Master of Puppets. The album cover. First thing that's going to draw your mind. And based upon your shirt, I'm going to guess I know where you're going with this and what you think is the better album cover.
Now, I don't have a Master of Puppets shirt, so I do need to get one of those. But you're absolutely right. I would have picked this one anyway if I had the Master of Puppets shirt. To me, I mean, let me stay on my tippy toes here. To me, it's this is like an amazing album cover. I mean, Master of Puppets was okay as it was a little more cerebral. I love this one. This one absolutely just the colors. I think we've talked about this before, but it's I've got it right here. I'm sort of looking at it as well. Um, Great album cover. So hands down, no question, that'll ride the lightning.
I would agree. Shockingly, I don't think I have either shirt. I need to get a Ride the Lightning shirt. Master, like you said, more cerebral, right? With the puppets on the cross. Look at that. Man's ready. Very cool cover. Just I think that blue against the black for Ride the Lightning is just so incredibly striking. It just captures your eye, and it's so iconic. You can't go wrong with it. So I would agree with you. The album cover would be the better album cover would definitely be Ride the Lightning. So good call. So moving on, both of them, start off with a very thrashy opening song with the, acoustic intro. Of course, Ride the Lightning was with Fight Fire with Fire, and Master of Puppets with Battery, which had more of a spaghetti western feel of their acoustic guitar intro than the more classical version of Fight Fire with Fire. Um,
Spaghetti Western.
yeah,
Nice.
you never heard that term?
No, no,
You've never heard spaghetti western?
I don't think that I have. So is that what, like Italian cowboys? What is that?
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. There are a lot of cowboy movies. They call them spaghetti westerns.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I'm surprised you've never heard of that. You need to get out more. At least
Maybe.
it'll help you with that tan. So going with that, now that you've first heard the term spaghetti western, which is your preferred opener?
Uh, this one actually, hands down, it's going to be Battery. I love the intro to it, and the just the doubling and tripling guitars, and then it just breaks out in this freaking thrash. And I didn't used to like that song. I used to not like that song at all. Um, it's a great song. I really enjoy it now.
I hate to be in agreement with you on both of these, but I agree. I think Battery is a better song. By Fire with Fire is amazing, but it's a little too basic, I think, on the main riff. Dun, 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 and it's just kind of continuing. Battery had a little bit more going for it. And I think the lyrics were better and the chorus was better. So damn, if we go across the board on this, I'm gonna be very upset. But all right, so it's so far 2 for 2. I'm gonna change this one up because I don't want everyone to think I'm just sitting here copying everything you say. So I'm gonna take this next one.
All right.
Both albums, and again, they're very similar albums, right? Both 8 songs had, a lot of things we're talking about. Instrumentals. I'm not a huge fan of instrumentals. Um, but obviously Master of Puppets had Orion and Ride the Lightning, and the way you're looking is like you're drawing a total blank on this. Call of Cthulhu for Ride the Lightning. And I get to answer first because I'm not going to let everyone think that I'm copying you. Just saying whatever Lewis says is cool because it's not. Um, I'm going with Master of Puppets again. I'm going with Orion. I love Call of Cthulhu. I think it's a great song and it builds up, but I'm gonna be very honest. It's one of those songs like if it comes on, maybe 1 out of 5 times I'm gonna let it play through. and not skip over it. Where Orion, I'm probably 3 out of 5 times I'm gonna go ahead and listen to Orion. I think Orion's uh, a more, it's not a better composition, but I think it's a little bit more listener friendly and a little bit more interesting.
Well, I hate to disappoint you, but I'm going with the same. I really like Orion. I remember listening to the whole CD once when I was like it was one of the first times, and I was still working at Lytton, and I was on my lunch break during swing shift, so it was dark, and I was in the car, and I was listening to it, and it's just awesome, man. I love the way that they've got the Hammond organ at the very beginning, that real deep snarl, and then the guitars slowly fade in, and uh, yeah, I'm same 100% same, no question.
Yeah, I heard that they played Orion too at Cliff Burton's funeral, because he was a big part of the composition of that song. He was knew a lot of music theory, um, right? You wouldn't think that just based upon appearance. The guy looked like he walked out of Leonard Skinner with the bell bottoms and everything. I remember he always had that K Fat shirt too. Remember K
I don't
Fat?
remember that. No, no, I don't.
Yeah, that was like it was more of a, I think a little bit more of a Western station, the Bay Area. But he had that.
Oh, you're right. I remember it now. Even the mascot was like this big fat dude with the cowboy hat. I remember that now.
All right, good. See, I'm glad to bring you back. But I think they played that at his funeral. So if nothing else, we gotta go with it for that. Um, Moving on. Both albums had amazing title tracks, right? Very long title tracks. Of course, Ride the Lightning had Ride the Lightning, and Master of Puppets had Master of Puppets. Um, I'm gonna go first because again, I don't want you to follow me. And this one's one of the more difficult ones, probably the most difficult in comparison. But I'm gonna have to go with Master. I love Ride the Lightning, especially right before they go into the solo. I think that's phenomenal. But just the Master, it's iconic. Um, you have I think the chorus is just so memorable and such a sing along chorus. It's incredibly catchy. Yeah, I gotta go with Master of Puppets.
This is a really hard one, John. I really am sort of on the fence. I would probably go with Master of Puppets as well, just because it's got sort of what I always consider sort of a real original riff. It's almost like it's not, in time, but it is, and it was super creative and very, very catchy, right? Very, very catchy. Different parts to it, sort of mellows out, and um, I'm probably gonna go with Master of Puppets as well. But that's a real hard one, really, really hard one to call.
Plus, it was used in the movie Old School, which stars the person you hate, Will Ferrell. Lewis has this weird thing that he says he hates Will Ferrell, but he watches all the movies and he likes the majority of them. So I'll never get that.
Yeah, I don't either. It's a Lewisism. I don't know. Yeah, but it's the
All right.
truth.
We'll have to one of these days be two dudes talking Will Ferrell, and we'll just we'll break off from this one, and we'll just discuss Will Ferrell movies. Because you hate him so much, but you love his movies. Real strange. All right, so God dang it, we haven't disagreed on anything. This is bugging me. Um, let's see if we disagree on this one. So I was gonna do like the third, song on each album, kind of the mid-tempo, catchy. But I'm sorry, I don't think there's anybody that's gonna say that the thing that should not be is a better song than "For Whom the Bell Tolls." And if they
Yeah,
do, I want to smack the shit out of them. Okay, but
you're violent.
I am. You got to be passionate about certain things. But I did think about, at least in my circle, I thought about what was the maligned song, right, from each. And they actually both turned out to be mid tempo songs. For, a Master of Puppets, obviously it's for The Thing That Should Not Be, and Ride the Lightning, it's Escape. I mean, so much so that Metallica refused to play Escape for the longest period. I think finally they broke down when they did the album in its entirety. And they said that was the only song they ever wrote in the studio with the effort to get airplay. And I don't know if they played The Thing That Should Not Be. I'm assuming they did. But which of those two songs, much maligned in my circles, both of them, would you say you prefer?
Another really tough one. I probably would go with the things that should not be. Final answer.
Final answer.
Final answer.
All right. So that is your preference between the two?
I think that yes,
May
yes.
I ask why? Since I'd like a little, other than final answer.
I really
This
can't
is
tell you,
supposed to
man.
be entertaining, right?
It's really hard, John. I mean, again, it's like picking between the title tracks. I'm almost picking one to just pick. I did this at work the other day, man. I would go like this, and I was on a conference bridge and going like this. I'm like, oh no, I'm doing it here. This is not good. Imaginary juggling. I'm almost picking one to just pick one because it's hard. It's hard to say between those two.
So finally, we're going to be different. I actually don't think Escape is as bad as everyone says. Like it comes on, I enjoy it. I actually prefer it over The Thing That Should Not Be. I think Escape's got a little bit is more interesting. Thing That Should Not Be sounds like they're trying to, kind of do like a Black Sabbath type of, slower paced doom song, and it just doesn't work for me. It's a decent song, but yeah, I'd probably skip it most times. In my circles, it was called The Song That Should Not Be. So, all right. Well, we're down. This one might be, I don't know, this one might be as tough as any of them. Ride the Lightning introduced something we never thought we'd see from Metallica, right? A ballad. And they continued that trend on Master of Puppets. So Ride the Lightning had Fade to Black, and Master of Puppets had Welcome Home Sanitarium. What ballad do you got? What are you going with, Lou?
Ah,
Final answer.
that one's easy for me. Fade to
Okay.
Black. Absolutely 100%. Don't even think about it twice. Fade to Black.
Again, can we get some some
Final
context in
answer.
here?
I love the way that it starts. And it's just I don't know if it was just something really unexpected to hear from Metallica, but it's just such a well-structured song. It's super catchy. It just stays in your head. Sanitarium's a good song as well. Don't get me wrong. I like that one. It you can't compare the two in my eyes. Fade to Black 100% every time.
All right. Well, I was hoping we'd get something different on this one, but I got to go with you on Fade to Black. I love that song. I fell in love with it from the get go, and I remember, and I've mentioned this before. The big thing back then was like, oh God, Metallica's wimping out. They're gonna put a ballad on their album. What the hell? And having that discussion with Lars, but being able to hear that song finally, going, wow, this is really really good. It doesn't matter if it's a ballad or whatever. It's heavy. It's obviously got important subject matter. And I remember I learned how to play it, and I think it was like sophomore junior year. Somebody had a party, and it was just like a little house party thing. They said, "Hey, bring your guitar, and we'll have some amps set up and everything." And so I was playing that, and the dun 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 dun, yeah. So I everyone was like, "Oh my god, you know how to play that? That's so cool!" So I taught everybody, like I taught like two or three guitar players that were there how to play it, and we would I swear to God, we must have played that riff like 80 million times. Like we were just sitting there, like wall of sound, like Leonard Skinner, 3, 4 guitar players playing it, and it just was such a great memory. And hearing it live in concert, on the Ride the Lightning tour was really, really incredible. So I got to go with that too.
Awesome.
What's funny is going back and trying to prepare for this. Um, back in those days, my roommate at the time, and yes, I had a roommate in high school. It's a very long story, but I did have a roommate in high school, and he back then fanzines were huge, right? Everyone did a fanzine, and he did a fanzine that it only lasted like 3 or 4. Um, you know, uh, I want to say
Issues.
episodes, but what'd you say?
Issues.
3 or 4 issues. Thank you. And it was just too much work, but I was helping him with it, writing it, and all that stuff. When Master of Puppets came out, he actually did a phone interview with Lars
Wow.
and got to discuss, with Lars. And, you're thinking about it, it's like a high school kid with a fanzine doing a interview with Lars Ulrich. And you think about it now, it just seems absurd to think that that would ever happen. And I was joking. I was like, "Oh, maybe you'll get Cliff Burton." He goes, "I would really like that." He goes, "Everybody, it's always Lars that gets interviewed. I would like to hear somebody else's perspective, whether it's Kirk, whether it's Cliff, James." He goes, "It would be really interesting to me." But he got Lars, and I think Lars is the only one doing it. And he had like 10-minute phone interview with Lars or something like that, and that
Man,
one was fanzine. And again, absurd, right? To think like some kid in high school was interviewing Lars, but that's how it was back in those days.
that's a trip because when they came out with Master of Puppets, they were already quite large. So, wow.
They weren't quite yet. They were getting there. They were certainly climbing. Remember, they were still opening for Ozzy.
Mm,
So there's still an opening act, but yeah, it definitely. Obviously the death of Cliff set him back a little bit, tragically. But I never did meet Cliff Burton. I met everybody from Metallica except for Robert Trujillo. I even met Ron McGovney, the original bass player. I've met Jason Newsted, who is still one of my all-time favorite musicians to talk to. He was a super cool guy the times I met him. But I never met Cliff Burton. But a little story is we were at the farm, and I don't think you ever went to the farm. It was like this little divey place in San Francisco, and it was literally on a farm. And they had concerts there. And I wasn't a place that I went to a great deal, but on this in this time we did go because it was like one of those punk metal shows. And the headliner was GBH, the punk band from England, and the supporting act was Metal Church. Very strange pairing, right? And I remember I was up towards the front for Metal Church going crazy. I love Metal Church, especially their early albums with David Wayne. And for some reason, I was always headbanging. I wasn't really doing the moshing or anything. I was just headbanging up in the front. And for some reason, I looked up and it was the wrong time. And some dude with steel toed boots had jumped off and he just hit me right in the mouth. So I was bleeding. I turned around and I turned right into Cliff Burton. And he was laughing at the time. And I thought at the time he was laughing at me. And maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But I was kind of like, oh, you jerk. But who knows if that was what he was laughing at. But yeah, so that's the only time I ever ran a Cliff Burton other than seeing him perform on stage. So I thought I'd share that little tidbit.
yeah, yeah. Well, that would have been cool to actually talk to him, but yeah, I guess he had a mouthful of steel toe. That makes it sort of hard.
Yes, it did. And and the thing is, it's funny because there was always this thing about him. Now that I've read up on him more, and but he kind of had this aura of like I always thought he was somebody you wouldn't want to approach for whatever reason. I talked to Kirk, I talked to James, I talked to Lars. I just there was always for me something there was an aura about him that I was like, yeah, man, I don't want to talk to that guy. And apparently I was completely off base because everything I've read about him sounds like he's a super cool guy, really intelligent musician, and bless his father's heart, he uses the monies earned from the Metallica royalties to send kids to college under Cliff's name. So still
That's
doing
awesome.
some great work, even after his passing. So God bless him. I think that's about it. So we're down to the end. What's your favorite album? Master of Puppets or Ride the Lightning?
Ride the Lightning, hands down again. I mean, I love Master of Puppets. I love the production of Master of Puppets over Ride the Lightning. I wish that Ride the Lightning had the dollars that Master of Puppets had as far as producing it. But
Same
again, no
producer
question.
too, Fleming Rasmussen.
Really.
Yeah.
But yeah, big difference to me at least in the sound and but yeah, Ride the Lightning, just no question.
Well, if you remember too, Ride the Lightning came out originally on Megaforce
Right.
and then was bought out by Elektra. So I'm sure they, twiddled some knobs and stuff, but they didn't re-record it. And Master of Puppets was on Electro, so I'm sure the budget increased significantly from Megaforce Records to Electro Records.
Right, right.
So, God dang it, I
Yourself?
want to agree with you on this one too. I have to disagree more. What's the only one? Oh, the thing that should not be. That's the only one we disagreed on. But yeah, I gotta go with Ride the Lightning. It's really funny because again, talking about fanzines, there was a great fanzine out of New York called Kick Ass Monthly. And this guy, I remember reading, he had the longest articles and interviews. Like they were so in depth, and I loved his writing. The guy's name was Bob Muldowney. I think he passed away a few years back. But I remember he introduced people to like Motorhead and Twisted Sister, before anybody heard of these guys. And I want to say it was him that he would do ratings of albums from 1 to 10, and I remember he gave Master of Puppets an 8 out of 10, and he just said it just seems so much like a carbon copy of Ride the Lightning that he couldn't give it more. And I wish I still had that magazine. I think it was my buddies, but there was a lot in that review that I really agreed with, right? You have the super, like we discussed, they're the next 8 songs in the Metallica catalog, but you had the ballad, you had the instrumental, you had the thrashy opener that had an acoustic guitar opening, you had a very long, intricate title track. So there were a lot of similarities between the two albums, and I thought he nailed it. I thought that article or that review of the Master of Puppets album was fantastic, and you know, definitely echoes my sentiments.
Yeah, I again 100% agree. And it's the only thing that I would say that lacks a little bit is, like I mentioned, is the production. But the content is just it's amazing. It's probably my favorite Metallica album. It's not probably, it is my favorite Metallica album.
It would be hard between Kill 'Em All, just because I think every song Kill 'Em All is really good, and Ride the Lightning, I feel like there's a couple that are quite not there, but then you think about For Whom the Bell Tolls and Creeping Death, and it's like God, those songs kind of put it over the top. So yeah, I would agree. We didn't do this last week. Um, the reason was you actually had me out to the Bay Area, um, and we went and saw Anthony Jeselnik. Um, I had a great time. I don't recommend anybody check out Anthony Jeselnik if you're a person that gets easily offended, because you will be terribly, terribly, terribly offended if you listen to Anthony Jeselnik. So, got to point that out. And we also reconnected with a good friend of ours, Erin, who we hadn't seen her, and God, I don't even want it. I'm trying to think when the last time I had seen her. Probably like 99, 98.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say a good 20, 25 years.
Wow. So it was absolutely great to reconnect with her. And then last night, speaking of our 80s-ness, I finally saw the Night Ranger concert that I was supposed to see several months back, and they had to cancel it due to a medical issue with Jack Blades. And so I was finally able to see that last night. So, yes, you can still rock in America. And, God, I wish they had Jeff Watson still. That's the only thing. It's like every time I see them, and I've seen them a lot, but I never saw them in their heyday. God, I would have loved to have seen them with Jeff Watson just once.
Yeah, no, I hear you 100%. The first time that I saw them uh, was at the Cow Palace just for one of the Bone Bashes. I think it was like the very first Bone Bash that they had, and by that time they didn't have Watson, and they still sounded amazing. But it would have been really cool to see them again, as you said, in their heyday.
That was probably with Joel Hoekstra, right?
I think it was.
Yeah, that I saw him once or twice. I think opening for Journey was the time I saw it with Joel Hoekstra. But yeah, always great to see Night Ranger. It's great to hear, Jack Black is Jack Black, Jack Blades. Darn it, School of Rock reference there. Tenacious D. Jack Blades is recovered and seemed, as energetic as ever. And God, I don't know what Brad Gillis does, but that guy is in phenomenal shape too. So
Yeah, yeah, he looks great.
yeah, good for him. Somebody has to, right? Sure the hell ain't us.
Indeed.
All right. Well, I think that we've about done it. We're about to run out of time here. So, anything you want to add before we sign off?
No, this was a really great topic. I had a lot of fun with this one, and yeah, it was good suggestion, John. I liked it.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys watching this. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let us know which one's your favorite, and if we're completely off base on any of these, in your opinion, let us know. We'd love to hear about it. So, thank you guys as always. Lou, take us out, brother.
Peace out.
Thank you guys.